she declared. "I don't want kids with your genetics. They'd be unfortunate looking." I replied, "Good point." Then I quietly got the genetic test results she'd refused to show me. Her silence when I handed them to her mother at dinner. Original post: I, 32 male, was supposed to be planning my wedding right now. Instead, I'm sitting in my apartment, surrounded by canceled vendor contracts and drinking coffee that doesn't taste like betrayal. Funny how things change. Met Veronica, 29, 3 years ago at a friend's barbecue. She was gorgeous, ambitious, worked in pharmaceutical sales. We clicked immediately. Her family was intense. Old money, country club types. Her mother Diane treated me like the help at first, but I won them over, or so I thought. Everything was good until about 8 months ago. We'd gotten engaged, moved in together, started talking about kids. Normal progression stuff. Then Veronica started getting weird about the whole children thing. "Maybe we should do genetic testing," she suggested one day. Just to be safe. Made sense. I agreed immediately. We both did the whole 23andMe health screening thing. Results came back. Mine were boring. Slightly elevated risk for high blood pressure, carrier for one recessive thing that wouldn't matter unless she had it too. Standard stuff. But Veronica, she got quiet about hers. Said everything was fine, changed the subject whenever I asked to see them. Whatever, I figured she was processing something. Gave her space. Then 3 weeks ago, we're at dinner with her sister Natalie and Natalie's husband, talking about their new baby. Veronica's had a few wines and suddenly announces, "Thank God we're not having kids right away. I need time to mentally prepare for the possibility they'll look like Derek's side of the family." Everyone went silent. Natalie's mouth dropped open. "What?" Veronica continued, apparently oblivious. "I'm just being honest. Derek's genetics are unfortunate. The nose, the hairline that'll definitely recede, that weird ear shape his dad has. I don't want kids that look like that." I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth. "Excuse me?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, don't be sensitive, it's just genetics. Some people win the lottery, some don't. I just need to prepare myself mentally for having kids that might be less attractive. Maybe we should look into sperm donors with better genes." Natalie tried to intervene. "Ronnie, what the hell?" "What? I'm being practical. Kids are cruel. I don't want mine suffering because they inherited," she gestured vaguely at me, "certain features." I set down my fork. "Good point." She looked surprised at my calm response. "See, Derek gets it. He's realistic about these things." The rest of dinner was awkward. Natalie kept shooting me apologetic looks. Her husband kept refilling my wine glass. Veronica kept talking about her friend's baby, who thankfully got the mother's features. Drove home in silence. She tried to backtrack a little. "Babe, you know I love you. I just worry about our kids." "Totally understand," I said, still calm. "Genetics are important." She seemed relieved I wasn't making a big deal of it. Went to bed thinking she'd won. That I'd accepted being called genetically inferior. That I'd just take it. Nah. Next morning while she's at spin class, I do some investigating. Her laptop was right there, already logged into her email. I know, privacy violation and all that, but something felt off. Found the email from 23andMe. Her results. And holy crap, she's a carrier for 3 serious genetic conditions. Like the kind that require both parents to be carriers, but still. One was for a degenerative muscle disease, another for a rare metabolic disorder, the third for something that causes intellectual disabilities. But that wasn't even the kicker. Her raw data, yeah, I downloaded it, showed some other interesting stuff. Extremely high genetic risk for early onset Alzheimer's, like 60% chance. Family history of mental health issues she'd never mentioned. Genetic markers for addiction tendencies. My unfortunate genetics suddenly looked pretty damn good. But I didn't confront her. No. I had a better idea. Update 1, 2 weeks later. So after discovering Veronica's genetic jackpot of medical issues, while mine were basically might need blood pressure meds at 60, I started planning. First, I called off the wedding venue, told them there was a family emergency and we needed to postpone indefinitely. Got most of our deposit back. Veronica didn't know I'd been handling all the vendor contracts anyway because she was too busy with work. Then I started documenting everything. Every little comment she made about my appearance, my family's appearance, anything related to genetics or kids, she made it easy. The woman couldn't help herself. Your cousin's baby has your family's forehead? Poor thing. If we have boys, we're definitely getting them nose jobs at 16. Maybe we should only do IVF so we can select the best-looking embryos. That last one she said at brunch with her friends. They laughed. I smiled and nodded while recording on my phone in my pocket. The real preparation was for dinner at her parents' house. Diane's 60th birthday. Big fancy affair, extended family coming in. Veronica was stressed about it, wanting everything perfect for mommy dearest. Wear your good suit, she instructed, and maybe consider getting a haircut that makes your forehead look smaller. Of course, babe. I got my hair cut. Bought a new suit. Looked sharp as hell, actually. Also printed out some interesting documents and put them in a nice folder. The dinner was exactly what you'd expect. Country club dining room. 5 courses. Diane holding court like the queen of suburbia. Veronica's dad Harold barely said anything, per usual. Various aunts and uncles all competing for who had the most successful children. Diane started her usual passive-aggressive routine with me during the salad course. Derek, Veronica tells me you're still at that marketing firm? Digital consulting, actually. Just got promoted to senior director. The dismissive little hum. Well, I suppose someone has to do that work. Veronica jumped in. Derek's doing great, Mom, though we are discussing our future family planning. Wanting to be really thoughtful about it. Diane perked up. Oh, finally being sensible about children? I've always said you need to consider bloodlines carefully. So important for the children's future. Exactly, Veronica beamed. That's why we did genetic testing. Want to make sure our kids have the best chance. Here we go. Oh, that's wonderful, Diane gushed. So responsible. I'm sure Derek's results were adequate? Veronica laughed. That little tinkling laugh she did when she was about to be cruel. Well, let's just say we're exploring all our options for healthy, attractive children. The relatives were all listening now. Aunt Margaret leaning in with interest. Uncle James pausing mid-bite. I reached into my jacket pocket. Actually, since we're talking about genetic testing and family planning, pulled out the folder, slid it across to Diane. I thought you should see Veronica's results, since genetics are so important to your family. The table went silent. Veronica's face drained of color. Derek, what are you? Just sharing information, I said pleasantly. After all, your mother has a right to know about potential grandchildren's health risks, right? Diane opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the first page, a simplified summary I'd made of all the genetic conditions Veronica carried, her Alzheimer's risk, everything. This can't be right, Diane muttered. Oh, it's directly from 23andMe, I said. Veronica got her results months ago. I'm sure she meant to tell you about being a carrier for Tay-Sachs, cystic fibrosis, and spinal muscular atrophy. And the 60% chance of early onset Alzheimer's that runs in your family, apparently. Gasps around the table. Aunt Margaret literally clutched her pearls. Veronica stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. You went through my private medical information? Funny thing about privacy, I said, still calm. You didn't seem to respect mine when you announced to your sister that my genetics were unfortunate and our kids would be ugly, or when you suggested a sperm donor, or when you told your friends our kids would need nose jobs. That's different, she shrieked. Is it though? I stood up too, straightened my suit jacket. You made my genetics a public discussion topic. Seemed only fair to return the favor. Harold finally spoke up. Veronica, is this true? You hid these results? She was trapped, couldn't deny it with the evidence right there. I was going to tell you? When? Diane's voice was ice cold. After you'd passed these conditions to grandchildren? My God, the Alzheimer's risk alone. But Derek's genetics, Veronica started, are completely normal, I interrupted. Slightly elevated blood pressure risk and one recessive gene that doesn't matter unless both parents carry it, which you don't. So basically, I'm genetically boring, but healthy. Unlike someone who called my genes unfortunate. The room erupted, Diane demanding explanations, relatives whispering, Veronica trying to deflect, blame me, play victim. But the evidence was right there in black and white. I dropped one more bomb. Oh, and the wedding's been postponed indefinitely. Venues have been notified, just thought you should know since you're writing checks. Then I left, walked right out of that country club, got in my car, and drove home. Phone blowing up before I even hit the highway. Didn't answer a single call. Update 2, the fallout lies. The next 48 hours were insane. Absolutely insane. Veronica came home that night around 2 a.m. I was still up, had already started packing her stuff. She walked in, makeup ruined from crying, and just stared at me. How could you do that to me? How could I? How could I? I actually laughed. You've spent months telling everyone who'd listen that my genetics are trash, that our kids would be ugly, that you need to mentally prepare yourself for having unfortunate-looking children. But I'm the bad guy for sharing your actual genetic results. That was private medical information. So is mine. But you made it public entertainment. She tried tears. I didn't mean it that way. You're taking it too seriously. Veronica, you literally suggested using a sperm donor because you don't want kids with my face. I was joking. No, you weren't. And we both know it. She switched tactics. My parents are furious. My mom won't even talk to me. You've ruined my relationship with my family. You ruined it by lying to them about genetic testing they apparently care a lot about. All I did was hand them paper. This is abusive. You're being emotionally abusive. I stopped packing and looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman I'd loved, who I'd planned to marry, who I'd wanted kids with, until she revealed how she really saw me. Veronica, you called me genetically inferior. In front of people, multiple times, you said our children would be unfortunate looking. You suggested medical procedures to fix their faces before they're even conceived. But I'm abusive for showing your mom a medical report? She had nothing to say to that. You need to leave, I said. Go stay with your parents. Or Natalie, I don't care. But you can't stay here. This is my apartment too. No, it's mine. My name on the lease. You just moved in. Never got you added because we were supposed to get married and move somewhere bigger. She tried one more manipulation. Derek, please. I love you. We can work through this. You love what I provided. Stability, someone your parents eventually accepted, someone to split bills with. But you don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't talk about me like I'm some genetic unfortunate you're settling for. She left that night with a suitcase, but the entitlement didn't stop there. Oh no, it escalated. Day 3. Her mom Diane called, not to apologize for her daughter's behavior. Nope, to threaten me. You've humiliated our family. I'll sue you for sharing private medical information. Go ahead. I'll counter-sue for the emotional distress of your daughter's sustained campaign of genetic discrimination. I have recordings. Recordings? Every time she called my genetics unfortunate, every time she suggested our kids would need surgery, every time she said she was settling for inferior genes, all recorded. Want to play that game in court? She hung up. Day 4. Veronica's friends started their attack. Social media posts about how I'm a controlling narcissist who violated HIPAA. Not how HIPAA works, ladies. And abused a vulnerable woman. My response? Posted one single thing. When someone tells you you're genetically inferior and your kids will be ugly, believe them the first time. Also, I'm not the one who hid serious genetic conditions from my partner while calling their genes unfortunate. That's all I'll say about this. The comments were brutal. Turns out, some of her friends didn't know the full story. When they learned she'd been calling me genetically inferior while hiding her own results, team switches happened fast. Day 5. Veronica sent her flying monkeys. Her sister Natalie called trying to mediate. Derek, she's really sorry. She didn't mean those things. Natalie, you were there. You heard her. Did she sound like she didn't mean it? Long pause. Okay, yeah, she was horrible, but exposing her at Mom's birthday? When should I have done it? At the wedding? After we had kids, she'd openly resent for looking like me? Fair point. Even Natalie couldn't really defend her. Day 6. The extinction burst. Yeah, I know, but that's literally what happened. Veronica showed up with a cop, claiming I'd stolen her property and she needed to retrieve it. The cop looked tired before we even started talking. I showed him the lease, my name only, proof she'd never established residency, no mail, no bills, and explained she was an ex who'd stayed over frequently but never lived here. Ma'am, this is his apartment. He's packed your belongings. Take them and go. She tried tears. But officer, we were engaged. He's stealing my engagement ring. I pulled up my phone, showed him the receipt. I bought it, have the documentation. She can keep it though. Consider it payment for showing me who she really is. The cop actually smirked. "Ma'am, collect your things." She grabbed her boxes while muttering about lawsuits and defamation. The cop waited until she was gone, then said to me, "Dodged a bullet there, buddy." Yeah, I did. Update 3. The weird escalation week 2 post-dinner bombshell got strange. Like, really strange. Veronica apparently hired some sketchy reputation management company. I started getting calls from random numbers, people pretending to be potential employers, verifying references, but asking weird questions about my mental health history and tendency toward vindictive behavior. I work in digital consulting. I know a social engineering attempt when I see one. Called my actual boss. Gave him a heads up. He laughed. "Derek, you just got promoted. Unless you're planning to burn the building down, you're fine." But Veronica wasn't done. She created this whole narrative on social media about being a survivor of genetic discrimination. I kid you not. Made herself into some kind of victim because I revealed her actual genetic tests after she'd publicly called my genes trash. The best part? She started a GoFundMe, helped me rebuild after genetic privacy violation. She asked for $10,000 to cover therapy, legal fees, and relocation costs from an unsafe situation. She raised $47. Her own friends weren't buying it. Then came the letters. Actual physical letters to my neighbors, warning them about the dangerous man in Unit 4B who violates women's privacy and engages in revenge tactics. My 70-year-old neighbor, Mrs. Chen, knocked on my door with one of the letters. "Derek, honey, is this about that terrible girl who said you were ugly? Apparently, the building's walls are thinner than I thought." Mrs. Chen had heard everything through the walls. "She called you genetically unfortunate? What a witch. My grandson's single, by the way. Lovely boy, good genes." She winked and left. But the real kicker came when Veronica's mom, Diane, reached out again. Not to apologize, not to be reasonable, to make an offer. "Derek, this has gotten out of hand. We're prepared to offer you $5,000 to sign an NDA about Veronica's genetic information. You want to pay me to pretend your daughter didn't call me genetically inferior? We want this matter resolved quietly. Diane, your daughter started this by making my genetics a public discussion. I defended myself with facts. I don't want your money. I want to never hear from any of you again. $10,000. Diane, stop. You're being unreasonable." Veronica made some poor word choices. Poor word choices? She suggested our future children get preventive plastic surgery because they'd inherit my face. That's not a word choice. That's eugenics. She actually gasped. How dare you use that word? How dare your daughter practice it? But here's where it gets truly unhinged. Veronica started dating someone new, 3 weeks after our breakup. His name's Bryce. He's some investment banker her parents introduced her to. Tall, conventionally attractive, probably has a boat. She made sure I knew about it. Posted constantly. So blessed to find someone who accepts me fully. When you know, you know. Already planning our beautiful future family. Her friends ate it up. Comments about how she deserved this after everything she's been through. I didn't care. Genuinely. Bryce could have her, but then she made a mistake. She posted a photo at a restaurant I recognized. Very exclusive place that requires reservations months in advance. I knew because I'd made us a reservation there 6 months ago for what would have been our wedding week. She was using our reservation, one I'd never canceled because I forgot about it in the chaos. I called the restaurant, explained the situation. They were very understanding about canceling a reservation under my name that I wouldn't be using. They even refunded my deposit. Apparently, Veronica and Bryce showed up to find no reservation. She made a scene. The manager had to escort them out. Someone filmed it. It ended up on the local food scene Instagram. Veronica screaming about discrimination while Bryce looked mortified. She tried to blame me publicly, but the restaurant responded professionally that reservations are non-transferable and can only be used by the person who made them. Bryce lasted 2 more weeks before he bounced. Guess he saw the crazy up close and decided his genetics deserved better. Final update. It's been 3 months now since that dinner at Diane's 60th birthday. 3 months since I handed over those test results and watched Veronica's world implode. The last I heard through mutual friends, she'd moved back in with her parents. Still single. Still posting about being a survivor of something that was entirely her own creation. The GoFundMe never broke $100 and quietly disappeared. Her parents sent one final letter through a lawyer. Not threatening this time, just asking that I confirm I wouldn't share the genetic information further. I had my lawyer respond that I had no intention of ever thinking about their family again, let alone talking about them. Natalie reached out once to apologize for her sister. Said Veronica was in therapy now, working through what the therapist called narcissistic collapse. Apparently, she'd built her entire identity around being genetically superior, and having that challenged broke something in her brain. She always thought she was better than everyone, Natalie said. The genetics thing just gave her something to point to. Now she has to face that she's actually just mean. I'm doing okay. Sold the engagement ring, used the money for a nice vacation. Been going to therapy myself, working through the mindfuck of being with someone who saw me as genetically inferior breeding stock while hiding her own medical issues. Dating isn't on my radar yet. Trust issues are real after something like this, but I'm working on it. The funny thing is, I never cared about her genetic results. Carriers for conditions? That's manageable with modern medicine. Alzheimer's risk? We could have planned for that. I would have supported her through anything, but she cared about mine. She cared so much about my unfortunate features that she made it everyone's business. She turned my DNA into dinner conversation, made my future children's faces a punchline. So yeah, I showed her mom those test results. I revealed her hypocrisy in the most public way possible, at the exact moment it would hurt most. Was it petty? Sure. Was it deserved? Absolutely. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate. Sometimes it's just handing someone the truth they tried to hide while they're weaponizing lies about you. She wanted to talk genetics. We talked genetics. She just didn't like it when the conversation included actual facts instead of her superiority complex. Last week, I ran into Aunt Margaret at the grocery store. She stopped me, looked around conspiratorially, and whispered, "That was the best birthday dinner entertainment Diane's ever had. She's still mad but secretly impressed you had the balls to do it." Then she added, "Veronica's been unbearable since childhood. About time someone gave her a reality check. Good genetics, bad genetics. Doesn't matter if you're an ugly person inside." Wise words from someone who married into that family and survived 30 years. I'm moving to a new apartment next month. Fresh start. No memories of Veronica calling my features unfortunate while standing in my bathroom using my expensive shampoo. The new place has better soundproofing too, in case I ever date another person who thinks they're genetically superior. Though honestly, if someone starts talking about my genetics again, I'm out. Immediately. No second chances, no waiting to see if they're joking. You get one shot to not call me genetically inferior, and if you blow it, I'm gone. My unfortunate knows, and I deserve better than that. Oh, and fun fact I learned recently? Veronica's been telling people she dumped me because I was obsessed with genetics and violated her privacy. Apparently forgot about all the witnesses to her eugenics dinner talks. But that's not my problem anymore. My only regret? I didn't record her face when her mom opened that folder. That moment of realization that her perfect daughter with superior genes was actually carrying a genetic loaded gun while mocking my normal-ass DNA? Priceless. Anyway, that's my story. Girl called me genetically inferior. I showed her mom she was genetically complicated. Everyone got what they deserved. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. Some people really need to learn. Don't start a genetics war unless you're ready for mutually assured destruction. And maybe, just maybe, don't call your partner's face unfortunate while hiding your own 60% Alzheimer's risk. Just a thought. Peace out.